Item number 16, Forest Preserve Advisory Board's report, item number 2018-01, legal protections against the construction of the Baltimore-Washington Railroad superconducting maglev within the Forest Preserve. So we accepted the report on the consent agenda, but I know Valerie Elliott and a number of members of the Forest Preserve Advisory Board, as well as Jason Martin, are here and to discuss the report and kind of give us an update. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. Were you able to actually make it out? Did you go to Annapolis and come back? I know Mr. Roberts was out there at 6 o'clock. Did either of you head out?
No, I did not make it out.
Okay. So I want to thank you for this report. It seems very
that was
thoughtfully put
a great
together.
Report. Thank you.
Who put it together? Who was the main person?
Oh, that's mostly Owen Kelly, who couldn't make it tonight. This is mostly his brainchild, and some wordsmithing, mostly by the board over email and at our last meeting, and then it was approved.
It's awesome. I mean, the documentation, the research that's done, the footnotes. It's everything that we wish we had when we sent the first letter. To be perfectly, yeah.
And I guess we'll probably put this on the city website on the page that's got the information about them.
But I think we should send this as an addendum to our original letter of opposition, because this is really, and send it to everybody that we just...
We have to adopt this first, and I
Right.
said,
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
This is the recommendation of the Forest Preserve, that we do send it to the BWI, the Maryland Department of Transportation, and the Federal Railroad Administration, and I assume all the other people we copied.
Everybody else.
It is just an excellent report. I think we should make a lot of copies and send a lot of letters and paper out about this.
That sounded like emotion almost.
It is emotion.
And Ms. Davis is seconded. Mr. Putins?
My concern is, has our legal counsel looked at this?
I have not.
But there's no... Why would we be... Why?
Well, it's great source material for correspondence. I don't know if we want to send the whole report or not, but I'd like to actually... Do you want to talk a little bit about the most important points that you brought out, or which just for the people that may be watching or may want to just learn a little bit more about your observations, particularly about Route J1, the one that comes across the Baltimore-Washington Parkway and comes right up there in Northway Field, right in the middle of our forest preserve. You want to talk about that a little bit?
You want to?
Sure.
Well, we can both talk. Basically, Owen put together a great map, and I don't know if city has access to it, but there are various regions that are protected, and it's described in this letter by various covenants and laws and whatnot. But I mean, as far as the impact to the forest, it would mean this superconducting train coming right down where the ball fields are, the observatory at Northway, and you're going to have noise, you're going to have light, you're going to have service trucks needing to get there on a regular basis. Pretty much the forest nature experience would be kind of devastated. So it's really important that people become aware of this, and not just the forest, but the surrounding neighborhoods are going to be highly impacted by sound and vibrations, etc.
I thought it was really a thorough job. You talked about
it just progressed so well.
You talked about the wildlife, the eagles.
Right. We talked about the bats and the bees that are protected, and
there's an area, a habitat of special state concern, which is a wetland area out there. That was brought up in a DNR report a few years back. We mentioned that as well. And I think that this route would actually go right through the floodplain area there, which is what that report was talking about. And so that entire wetland habitat would be wiped out. due to the construction.
And also that area is one of the oldest forested areas, so a lot of the trees are over 100 years old. And that's the Goddard floodplain, and that would be pretty much devastated by this construction.
We also talked a little bit about the state protections and the county protections and the municipal, just in terms of the covenants on the land. And I was really impressed that you were able to pull this together, because some of it's pretty complicated, and we're aware of Mr. Putin's and Davis and Roberts have been around here for long enough.
And
so you
even
remember
some
the
of this I
discussions.
didn't know. I mean, some of the federal stuff and everything else. It was really quite.
I only knew part of this. I didn't know all this
Yeah.
stuff here.
Would you like to talk about any of those sections?
If you want to start talking about the legal protections and all the policy and stuff, that gets a little bit outside of my comfort zone and my realm of expertise. But the idea was to build where you start with the local protections, and then of course if you can get past those, when I have the county protections, and then you have the state protections all the way up to federal protections. And the idea was to essentially build all these on top of each other to say that if you want to do anything here, you're going to have to go through all of this just to get access to this area to even start thinking about constructing anything. Not, any project that wants to come through there. And also, a lot of these also protections cover the route on the other side of 295 as well. Because we talk about the route J1 that goes straight through the preserve, or the next one, proposed route J, I believe it is right on the other side
I
of
wish they
295.
didn't call it Route J.
I wasn't going to say anything about that.
Route J, it's right underneath
your
my
house.
house, and it's Route J.
But I mean, the impact on Green, as you said, the focus of this report is mostly on Route J1, but that other route, literally, they both literally come right through Hunting Ridge. They come through Greenbrook townhouses. They come right through Windsor Green, Greenwood Village, Greenbrier. I mean, it's just shocking. It's terrible. The proposal, and as far as the forest preserve, a lot of the points that you brought up apply to both routes and to the forest preserve, but they also apply to the impact on the agricultural research center right behind Greenbelt. And if you're following this as closely as I know you are, part of this proposal is also for a maintenance yard.
Yep.
And I believe there are two scenarios. One is at the intersection of Powder Mill Road and Springfield Avenue. And the second option is actually up near Fort Meade. But as far as the animal habitats and the flora and fauna and the impacts that you've pointed out here, most of them also would apply to the both of the sites for the proposed maintenance yards. So this is very, very helpful, as council fights and advocates, along with so many citizens throughout Greenbelt and the surrounding area.
You may want to
So-
take a copy of this or copies of it.
Well, I definitely am. I'll be testifying on two of these bills on Thursday in Annapolis. And also, there's a couple of rallies coming up in the next week. There's one at Greenbrier on the 3rd, and there's one on the 24th, or...
No,
I'm sorry, 22nd. Is it?
A third, and
There's something else I can't remember. The one was tonight.
One was tonight, and Mr. Roberts was actually there.
there's something else coming up, is absolutely correct, but I can't remember.
Next weekend at Greenbrier.
Next weekend.
Yeah, that's May.
That's March 3rd.
That's March 3rd. That's
Yeah,
March
there's something
3rd.
else.
There's something else.
How did things go today in Annapolis at the rally?
Oh, it was very, very good. I mean, yes, it was.
Fill up the whole street.
When I was on my way over there, it sounded like a football game going on.
That's
So you had the MAGLEV people here, and you had the union people here, and it was like a chorus between the two
What was the
So-
union fighting for?
for the MAGLEV.
For it?
Yes,
Yes.
the union's fighting for the MAGLEV. The people are fighting against it.
So was the whole plaza there filled up pretty much?
Pretty much, yeah.
But no violence.
Quite a number of people. No violence, but a lot of loud noise. A lot of people making their point of view heard. So, but I wanted to just make kind of a motion here that not only we send this letter from the advisory board, but also include sending that to Mr. Abe, the president of Japan, because I think he needs to hear where his train is proposed to go. You know, Japan says that they're a very green country. You know, they don't want to destroy the environment, and I think that
There.
yes.
The key word is
So,
their
well,
environment.
but I think they need to be educated as to what exactly they're trying to do.
I have no problem with that.
Here.
That's fine.
I have no
So-
problem with
We're
that.
gonna send a letter to
But-
Japan, let's do it.
And, you know, I'm not really so. Now I know that about $5 billion of financing is coming from Japan. I'm not sure that it's coming from the government,
Yes, it's coming from the,
not
well,
from
the
the
bank
private sector.
through the government, yeah. The government is what resurrected the project.
Okay, Mr. Byrd.
That's an interesting suggestion, and I just hope it's not interpreted as an act of aggression. I know that there is a
They're
federal
an ally, you know.
right. Well, not on this. I was going to ask really quickly. Are you the council liaison to any other committees?
No, just the
Okay, just Forest
Advisory
Preserve.
Board.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Davis.
And this is just, I hope everyone heard the news tonight about the proposal that was made to sell off
Yes, I heard that.
Baltimore,
I
Washington,
heard the GW.
And
George Washington,
Yes.
Dulles, and Reagan. They didn't say BWI.
Yes, they did.
Oh, that
No.
too?
They said the BW Parkway, not BWI.
Yes,
but
yeah.
BW Parkway
Oh,
and
yeah.
BW Parkway.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And it
No.
was the Dulles and the
National Airport.
and
And
National
National.
Airport.
that's what you said.
But it was it's interesting that that's been placed forward, and we already know that Hogan, Governor Hogan has already said that he would like to take it over. It's almost like this has all been set in motion. It's very, very scary. And then that will allow the MAGLEV and whatever to go through. It's just like all the pieces are coming together. I'm not saying there's a conspiracy, but there's certainly been a little bit of talk behind scenes to get this all done. It's very, very scary.
You know, on Saturday, Mr. Byrd and I were at a Black History Month breakfast, and I had a chance to briefly speak with Senator Cardin, and he's really on top of this, the transfer, and he had some choice words to say about whether or not that was going to happen.
Well, I'm sure Representative Hoyer and Senator Van Hollen has the same
Yes.
situation. I just wish that, as Mr. Byrd has said, that the county executive would get on board with some of these ideas too, that this should not happen.
And
But-
I asked him about that.
Right, and I would say, I mean, it's good in private conversations that's what Senator Cardin and everybody is saying, but we actually do need them to formally register their opposition if that is the case. So, yeah, I'm glad to hear that, but, we need that to kind of go way out there because this thing is really moving fast, pardon the pun. Yeah, and I would say that, it was interesting. It was like a football game. It was almost it felt like a little bit like a Trump rally, though. Not us, but it seemed, I was reminded of like the Charlottesville, like that's the feel that I got. Not that it was the same types of people, but just the whole counter-protest atmosphere. And then it was very, very male-dominated, the other one, because it was like
That's
the union.
yeah.
And they were the ones that were causing the football sounds. We were, I think, more peaceful, but I think we were vocal. But I don't know. That's the sense that I got from it. But they were very well financed because they all had shirts and they had signs that were like printed, whereas the anti-maglev people like wrote on their signs. They had like printed,
Oh, yeah. Well,
it's a lot of money behind that project.
When a union gets behind something, there's money involved, and yes, they do. They print, and there's T-shirts, and there'll be hats too at some point.
It's a whole lot of jobs. I want to vote on this. Mr. Hughes?
I think this should be forwarded to everybody and anybody who has any comment, and also the news review.
And I don't mind
But I really
sending it
want
to.
I
don't
want our
mind-
legal
yeah,
to
yeah.
have a look at this.
Will you review this, please?
Because when it comes down to it, our new city solicitor, This will be your big test.
I'm up to it, and I'll follow up.
Yeah.
Greenbelt is known to take things to the Supreme Court if we have to.
All in,
Yeah.
all in,
Just
You think
one-
you got some
one-
additional
oh, yes, we
one
have.
quick thing.
Go ahead.
I don't want to be a party pooper on the.
Even beyond that.
I don't want to be a party pooper on the Japan letter thing, and I don't think that this is likely. However, there is a federal law called the Logan Act, and
Yes.
and Mr. Putin sounds like he knows about it. And when the U.S. government is dealing with a foreign entity, and I think the U.S. government has actually had conversations with Japan about this, it's actually in a very convoluted way somehow against federal law for governmental officials to be seen as interfering with those negotiations. So
That's
this
right.
came up in
Especially
the whole
federal employees.
right. So this came up in the whole, just as an analogy, obviously totally different issue, but this came up in the whole discussion around, Mike Flynn and Russia and Iran and Iran deal. There were senators that were sending letters separate from the Obama administration, and that raised concerns. Now, nobody got prosecuted. I don't think we get prosecuted, but we want to be careful about that. I don't know if Mr.
Right.
Pounds
You're
wants to speak to that.
absolutely right.
Right.
There are
I
certain
mean, you are.
restrictions on that kind of negotiation.
I mean,
Well, it was my motion
But
of
it's a
it,
motion on the floor.
and my
I don't
motion
wanna-
does not include sending this to Japan
Okay,
now.
that's right.
Oh, come on.
No, well, it
You
didn't.
can do it
Hold on,
individually if you want.
It
I'll
didn't
send a
include that.
copy myself.
Okay.
So, and I don't want to be partisan about this.
You gonna hand deliver it?
It's the project that is really.
Take the maglev over there.
Okay,
Let's
so
take
all-
this serious. This
all
is a
in
serious thing.
favor-
This is very well done.
Yes, it
Please.
is.
And thank you.
Say all in favor of supporting the Forest Preserves motion, the suggestion to do correspondence about this, as Ms. Mack had suggested in her motion. Please say aye.
Aye, of course.
Opposed? Okay, the motion does carry. Thank you.